What episode number are we on right now? No, I should have checked before we even start this thing. And welcome back, folks, to another episode of Viewpoint, the Brian Heeraman podcast. We were just debating before we even started what podcast number we're on, but we've now settled it. We're on episode number 41. So apparently, no one here seems to realize that we need to check this out before we even started. So, okay, we're on episode number 41, folks. And it's good to be back. It's good to be in front of this microphone, provide my viewpoints on different topics as what's been taking place in the country. Um, it's been a long break for me. A lot has taken place in my life. A lot of different changes has happened, and I needed time to adjust to those things and to put things in perspective, get things straight before I come back out here. And I hope I'm back on a weekly basis, and that is to continue to put out these podcast episodes on a weekly basis. I can't say for sure. We take it one step at a time and see what happens, and we'll keep pushing forward and keep providing these episodes as we go along. Oh, look at this. Someone's calling me now, right in the middle of an episode. So, one sec. We'll be right back. And we're back. So, sorry about for that interruption, folks. A very important call that I need to take. I should probably put this phone on silent, but so much has taken place. So, as I was saying, we're going to push forward with these podcast episodes and see what happens. But before we get started, before we dive into anything, just want to remind everybody that this podcast is available on all major podcasting platforms, including Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Twitter, and Facebook. Oh, you went Facebook, definitely. Talk about Facebook in a while. I want to get the Instagram account up and running. So as soon as we get up and running, I'll let you guys know. But going back to Facebook for a little bit, even though I haven't been doing this podcast, but I have been putting out a lot of viewpoints on Facebook. I've been using Facebook for as much as I could possibly use it, trying to get in there. And, I've realized in Facebook, you need to be pretty brief in Facebook, and direct to the point. So it's not been giving me that much opportunity to go in depth. But nonetheless, I think I get the meat of the matter out there. So you guys, if you haven't been following us on Facebook, just join us on Facebook, follow me on Facebook. And that way you get my point of view in between, from episodes during the week so that you have something to go on from what I think has been taking place. But with regards to episode number 41, I want to split it up in a couple of ways. I want to start with some political viewpoints, then go into some business because as you all know, everything's taking place in this country is not where we would like it to be. And I want to end off on a bit of a funny way, what I consider to be funny anyway, because in this country, serious matters, joke matters, everything is all funny until it's too late, and then it's a whole bunch of narrative changes in how you interpret things. So let's get into it right now. So I want to get started, but before I get started, there's one more thing I want to add. I want to give a special thanks to everyone who has been sending your kind words and your support and your concern for what's been taking place since we last did episode number 40. It's really appreciated. I really admire the fact that you are loyal listeners, loyal fans, and who really care that much to inquire and to show some concern about what's been taking place. So, with that being said, let's get started right now. So the first point I want to talk about is this whole um, debacle, this whole what could very well be a constitutional crisis in Trinidad and Tobago right now with regards to the appointment of an acting commissioner of police. And the reason why it's an acting commissioner of police is because the entire selection process for commissioner of police is now in the courts because I think it's Anand Ramaser. He's one of the candidates who applied to become commissioner of police, and his name apparently is not on the order merit list, and he is now taking him to court. And there's a whole injunction against the Police Service Commission from doing what they need to do, and that will take place on it. That's an entirely separate issue. But right now, as it stands right now, the Minister of National Security has called the Commissioner of Police and asked him to stay home and not to report for duty. Now, the Commissioner of Police, oh, sorry. We're going to get this all tied up with regards to Commissioner and Acting Commissioner of Police. But right now, Gary Griffith is supposed to be the Acting Commissioner of Police because his contract, his 3-year contract for being Commissioner of Police has come to an end and he's no longer Commissioner of Police. So if I call him Commissioner of Police or Acting Commissioner of Police, forgive me. He really is the Acting Commissioner of Police right now. But as I was saying, the Minister of National Security, Mr. Fitzgerald Hines, God knows what he took out of this man's mind. He then called the Commissioner of Police and told him to stay home from duty and not to report, as I mentioned before. For all intents and purposes, this Minister of National Security does not have such powers. Now, you all know my view when it comes to the Commissioner of Police right now, acting Commissioner of Police again, sorry, Mr. Gary Griffith. I am no fan of his. But in this podcast, when there's a right, we will call it a right, and when there's a wrong, we call it a wrong. And what's been taking place with regards to this whole appointment of an acting Commissioner of Police is a travesty of justice against Gary Griffith and a travesty of justice against the entire population. Now, the Police Service Commission has certain powers. Those powers, in my mind, were breached at the particular point in time when they appointed Gary Griffith to act as Commissioner of Police, because they did not follow the process. And everything that happened thereafter that, with regards to the appointment of this acting Commissioner of Police, should be ruled null and void and of no effect, ultra vires. Right now, that's going to take place in court. I think the Commissioner of Police is going to sue the Police Service Commission for the process that they used to suspend them. Another matter. But I want to deal with the entire process of how he became acting Commissioner of Police, because I think that's important. Because I think once we get to the point of that, then we would now have a clear path to know exactly what transpired after that and how we can deal with it. Now, in law, everything that when you view a process null and void of no effect, and everything that happened thereafter that, will obviously automatically become of no effect because you started wrong and you can't expect to end right. It's kind of like they call it the fruits of the poison tree. If you take a fruit from a tree that was poisoned, then therefore you eat a poison fruit, so therefore everything that happens after that, it's poison as well. So forgive me if you hear me shuffling papers here, because I want to get to the root of the matter with regards to how this entire process take place. Because Section 123 of the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, that section shows how the Commissioner of Police should be appointed, and it gives the Police Service Commission certain powers, right? It says in Section 123 in A, the Police Service Commission shall have the power to, and it goes on to list a whole bunch of things. A, for example, states the appointment of persons to hold or act in the office of Commissioner of Police and Deputy Commissioner of Police. Legal Notice 183 of Trinidad and Tobago then went on to say that the process for the selection of a Commissioner of Police. Now it has from A, the conduct recruitment process, but I think F is the appropriate one that we need to look at here in terms of Legal Notice 183. The Commission shall submit to the President the names of persons listed on the order of merit list in accordance with the procedures set out in 123. So basically what it's saying there is that an order of merit list should be generated and then submitted to the President. The President will then take that order of merit list and submit it to Parliament for ratification. So basically the Parliament would go through the list, the government holding the majority, they will then pick the name on the list that they want to ratify as Commissioner of Police. Obviously, the top candidates may or may not get the position, but that's just how it goes. So in Commissioner Griffith appointment as Commissioner of Police in his first 3-year contract, he was not the top candidate. They just didn't want a bunch of the other guys. And obviously we know why, because they believe that the Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith, at that particular point of time, would have done their bidding. Now we have seen from this whole declaration of a state of emergency and all these different health ordinances, we have seen what has transpired and how the Commissioner of Police was clearly operating with two different sets of laws. One set of law for the normal folks and one set of law for, well, you call it wherever you want to call it, for that set of area and environment. But if it is that the process that was appoint the acting Commissioner of Police is wrong, because what the Commission is now saying is that the legal notice and Section 123 doesn't speak about the appointment of an acting Commissioner of Police, but that may very well be the case. But the fact of the matter is that there's a process to be followed. That process was never followed. What happened was that the Police Service Commission created an order of merit list, submitted to the President, and having done that, they then went ahead and appointed Gary Griffith to act as Commissioner of Police. That list never went to the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago for ratification. So therefore, if you know fully well that you created a list of candidates to act as Commissioner of Police, how then, in holy God's mind, could you decide to disappoint somebody without going to Parliament? Because you know by the very definition, by the very creation of that order of merit, that you knew very well the right procedure, but you broke the procedure and you appointed Gary Griffith to act as Commissioner of Police. And they knew that very well. Now, this entire process is being charged in court. I think the Commissioner of Police is going to sue them and stuff like that. And there are a bunch of other activists who are going to court for a declaration to find out if what the Police Service Commission has done with the appointment of the Commissioner of Police without going to Parliament for ratification, if that process was right or wrong. I have my own opinion. I think that how this entire Police Service Commission following the wrong process, the wrong procedures, they need to submit their resignation immediately because I hope that when the court gives the declaration to support my opinion that the Police Service Commission tender their resignation if they have not by the time you listen to this podcast because they have breached the law. No, the president has a role to play in this too because she sat idly by. Now, she's the most quarantined official in Trinidad and Tobago since this entire and probably even before COVID-19 came about. She sat down and she allowed an illegal process, an ultra-virus process to take place under her watch. And she said nothing about it, making her part of the process and part of the problem. Now, part of the problem in this particular system and part of the process in this particular procedure. She did the wrong thing. She should have told the Police Service Commission, you submitted this order of merit list to me, but then you went ahead and appointed somebody without going through Parliament. How is that possible? But the chairperson of the Police Service Commission, Ms. Bliss C. Prasad, I believe, let's call her Ms. C. Prasad if her name is not Bliss, if I have it wrong. Ms. C. Prasad did the wrong thing. And that created the problem that existed here after that. It's as simple as that. Now, there are some quarters calling for the president to step down too, but that would never happen. But she should, because she followed an illegal process. She allowed it to take place. Now, with regards to the Commissioner of Police, they always say that, what I say, chickens coming home to roost. We all know fully well that when this Commissioner of Police was appointed, he was appointed to do certain things. He has now used out his term of office. He was a useful idiot for 3 years, and now they no longer want him. They probably find a different candidate who would push the envelope a little bit further in terms of taking away your rights and doing exactly what they want him to do. Maybe the acting Commissioner of Police got a little bit wise and wants to get his sack more in order, and he pulled back a little bit, too little, too late. I remember this Commissioner of Police very well. I know exactly what's taking place. I remember when it was Owen Hackshaw with money in his bank account. What happened to that investigation? Nothing. When the Commissioner of Police was basically borderline and threatening reporters in terms of their reporting. I remember that point in time. I am old enough to also remember Mark Hernandez. Remember the sword guy? When 2 people were killed. Well, they call them criminals, but they were never charged. They died. How could they be charged? We don't know whether they were innocent or not. For the whole Andrea Barrett fiasco, remember that? Those 2 men were beaten under police custody under Mark Hernandez, who was in charge of sorting at a particular point in time. What he got? A misbehavior in public office charge. That's all we heard about it. I remember that. I'm old enough to remember that as well. I'm also old enough to remember this name, Christian Chandler, the head of a legal unit. Some girl on some boat needed to call Coast Guard because she wanted to get off the boat because of improper advances being made towards her. And I also remember Christian Chandler's response to all of this. I'm old enough to remember that. Folks, the point is, Commissioner of Police, even though what was done to him is wrong now, and I support that, it's wrong, he was the wrong fit guy for this job. He was the wrong fit. Now, they may very well bring somebody who's 10 times worse than Griffith, but we don't know that at this particular point in time. I suspect the person is going to be worse because, judging from the operation of his government, they're leaning and probably even crossing the red line into the dictatorial tendencies. They may bring somebody worse than Griffith, but right now we know Griffith and we know he's bad and he's not the right person for the job. Shouldn't be given the job again. We know that much. So, I have no quarrel when saying that how I am glad to see Gary Griffith leave. With regards to the investigations, I'm pretty sure that he's going to get some victory because you know the whole part of the appoint the police service commission is one authority allowed to investigate the commissioner or the acting commissioner of police. Another one is probably the office of the director of public prosecution and the police complaints authority. Other than that, nobody else. So when the prime minister appointed, or I don't know how these two gentlemen came about to investigating this whole issue of firearm users license in the commissioner's office, and then they submit some no-name report making no accusations against no particular person to the National Security Council. The National Security Council apparently allow these men to, I don't know where they get the powers from because it doesn't exist in law, but still, this happened. And how did the commissioner of police even allow these men to investigate, or the acting commissioner allow these men to come into his office to perform this investigation? You know why? Because when you're playing with the lion with the hope that he wouldn't eat you, get it right, folks. He may not eat you at that particular point in time, but eat you he will when he's ready. And that's what is happening to the commissioner of police right now. They are eating him. He played the games with them, and now they have tired of him. So they're getting rid of him right now. So when these two men submitted their report to the National Security, and apparently to the National Security Council, you found wrongdoing, but you submitted a report to the National Security Council, and then the National Security Council submitting this report to the Police Service Commission, and then the Police Service Commission taking this report and appointing Justice Stanley John to investigate this entire matter. Now, first of all, if the report from the National Security Council is deemed null and void, then also the appointment of Justice Stanley John will be deemed null and void. As a matter of fact, Justice Stanley John has been quoted as saying in a letter that he is not investigating the police service, the police commission, or the commissioner of police. So where then all of this comes from, I have no idea. But I do know one thing for sure, that the appointment of the acting commissioner of police, Gary Griffith, is wrong. It did not follow the correct procedure. It should be deemed wrong. And everything thereafter that should be deemed wrong as well. The attempt to remove the commissioner of police right now, the acting commissioner of police, we'll see how that plays off. But they are entirely following the wrong procedure. The Minister of National Security overstepped his bounds, and the Police Service Commission apparently listening to the Minister of National Security, even though they're supposed to be an independent institution. Now, you all know how I think about this so-called word independent in terms of people and institutions here in Tobago. This government has dipped their hands in every single institution that's supposed to be independent. Now, independent they may not be, but what the system is designed to do is to create or to have appointments of people to these institutions with a strong moral compass, integrity, and values, character, and therefore they will be insulated because of their the whole behavior and the whole attitude, and they will just stand up to the political directorate and prevent them from allowing them to overrun the institutions. That didn't happen with the Police Service Commission, and I tell you why. The Minister of National Security called acting commissioner of police, tell him to stay home. The acting commissioner of police told the Minister of National Security, you don't have those powers. Right after that, hours right after that, the Police Service Commission then issues a suspension letter to the Commissioner of Police. One would be naive, if not downright stupid, to believe that the Police Service Commission did not get a phone call or is not listening in some form or fashion from the Minister of National Security directive. So that's my thoughts on this entire Commissioner of Police acting appointment and what transpired thereafter that. So I say that much at this particular point in time. I have no problem in saying I don't believe that this commissioner of police is the right person for the job, but I also have no problem in saying that the fact that the process and attempting to remove him is wrong, and his appointment itself is particularly wrong. Something else I want to get to, and I'm looking at the time here. I'm thinking I'm going to go over my time, but forgive me, folks. There's so much happening since we last spoke. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on with this whole COVID-19 stuff. There are a whole bunch of people out there that's COVID phobia. I think what they're doing right now with this entire COVID-19 and this vaccination is wrong. they're creating a scenario and a situation whereby it's the vaccinated people against the unvaccinated people. But we should start off this conversation with regards to this whole vaccination process by putting the facts out there, the science. Everybody like to talk about the science, and once you use the word science, you just sort of step back and, all right, science, science, science. I'm using the word science, and let's talk now. So the fact of the matter remains, from all intents and purposes, that if you're unvaccinated, you can get the COVID-19 virus. If you're vaccinated, you can still get the COVID-19 virus. But the vaccine, and that term vaccine is being used very loosely, sorry. But the vaccine, apparently, the new argument about the vaccine is not about not being able to get the virus. It's the fact that now they're saying that if you take the vaccine, your chances of being hospitalized has now reduced. Before, it was take the vaccine so you wouldn't get COVID-19. Now, the narrative has changed that take the vaccine so you reduce your risk of being hospitalized. Okay, fine. We're going ahead with it. But what I'm impressed to see too is the industrial court in Trinidad and Tobago coming out. That is I want to get the name of the person in the industrial court here. The industrial court president, Deborah Thomas Felix, has come out and clearly stated that any attempt by employers to force a vaccination policy upon workers is wrong, is not legal, and can be challenged in the industrial court. That's good. So we have now finally put that process to rest. So nobody could come to any employee. No employee can go to any employee. There can be no confusion in the minds of anybody about no scare tactics about vaccination policy. It's wrong. There's something called freedom of choice. And if you want to get people vaccinated, it's only part of the government to sell their policy and their ideas. The fact that that a significant section of the people in Trinidad and Tobago don't want to get vaccinated is clearly because of the fact that the policymakers have been unable to put forward sufficient arguments, have been unable to sell this entire idea of vaccination. And that's all it's about. If it is that the people believe that our vaccination was the right way to go and the government have sold the idea appropriately, then nobody would have been. There'll always be a certain percentage of people who don't believe in vaccines. But I think the percentage would have been much smaller now if the government had done the right thing. But as always, we've made a mockery and a joke out of everything in this country. And by saying that, take the vaccine, you won't get. As a matter of fact, I think one minister of government, Ayana Webster Roy, I think she's representative of some state in Tobago, she's fully vaccinated and she has now gotten COVID-19. But you see, we started the entire process wrong. We believe in that, we weren't doing testing en masse and we got all these crazy cases. And now when it comes to vaccination, you went out there and you bought one particular type of vaccine of which everybody believed in that they were against. And that is this Sinopharm vaccine from China. Nobody wanted the Sinopharm vaccine in China, so they resisted getting vaccination. And that in your mind just festered until the point now where it is right now, that people just don't want to become vaccinated. And now you're forcing kids to get vaccination. Now, you tell me how much kids have gotten COVID-19 and have died. COVID-19, with regards to the young immune system, is a very slim chance of anything happening to kids with regards to COVID-19. Is it worth the risk of vaccinating all these children with this vaccine, and we don't know what's going to happen? This is a new vaccine, but that's a choice. That's up to the parents. It is not, in my opinion, up to government to tell parents how to take care of the kids. Parents, you give them the relevant information. You give them all the information and let them make a determination of what's best for the kids. Nobody, God forbid, would like to see anybody, whether it be kids or adults, be forced to take a vaccine, and God knows that something happened to them. Who is going to bear the responsibility? If it is that the policy of the government is that they want all persons to be vaccinated, bring a law. And in that law, if you are so brave to make that stance, then put it in law that how anyone who has been given an adverse reaction to this vaccine, that OSHA will now cover it and the employers will now be liable for those claims. Put it in law, but employers would not go along that road because they know fully well they don't want to be held liable to those things. This whole vaccination thing, the entire COVID-19 thing in Trinidad and Tobago has been managed horribly. we know we're now at a point where the Minister of Health is now on programs talking. Imagine you have the time to go and talk about a tweet about Nicki Minaj and whatever the tweet was about swollen, whatever. That's just how you spend your time. And that just goes to show how we have sufficient time. And I remember watching on TV where the minister was asking, I think it was Dr. Hines, and I can't remember who the next doctor, if there are any cases of these, and the doctors, I'm saying, no. I mean, imagine that doctors being brought down to such childish actions. I have to wonder if these doctors are really professionals. But anyhow, when it comes to this whole vaccination thing, it's entirely wrong. I believe in the freedom of choice. Give people the information, let them choose what they want to do. But the fact that you're hiding information, you're hiding data and statistics, and you're calling everything science, and you're coming out here on these media briefings, and you literally, when you buff people to sell your points, and you legitimize terms as like jackass in the scene, and now every single kid out there is going to be. I mean, if somebody tell you you're jackass in the scene, and where you go say now, what a police officer would say if somebody tell them that the prime minister using these terminologies openly in television, and not just the prime minister, he has now given. I remember so-called news reporters, journalists like Dominic Kalipasar on TV saying to jackass scene. I mean, where have we become as a nation when these things have become so routine? But like I said, they are not journalists. They have sold out the population all in the name of ads, and that's fine. That's your choice. But don't come to the population and pretend. Like I said, it's one thing to take a side in it. There's nothing wrong in taking a side, whether it be a political side, whether it be a policy side. That's totally fair. There's nothing wrong with that. But to come outside here and pretend that you don't have a side, that is where the problem always begins. And that's what we're seeing right now happening with this entire vaccination situation in Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know what next they're gonna come. They're gonna come and try and start back up this entire holy Delta variant now. It's a new. There's always going to be some kind of variant to sell to create fear, panic, and hysteria in the minds of the population to get their procedures going. I mean, I don't know which countries is still in this lockdown. Well, let's say Jamaica, but whatever. The world is opening up. How much more people need to go hunger? How much more people need to go without jobs? How much more people need to just be suffering, unable to pay their rent, their mortgage, whatever, just in the name for you to feel safe out there? Because that's what it's all about. The numbers are not going down anytime from what we've seen. It's still there, and the process and the policies is not changing. It's all about fear, and we still in this entire SOE. I mean, it makes no logical sense, and I've said this from the outset. All a state of emergency will do is to deny citizens their rights, freedom, and liberties. That's all it does. It's not solving anything with regards to COVID-19. It's time to come out of this state of emergency. It's time to restore citizen right, to allow them to walk the streets fairly. I mean, you have COVID-19 and you have these restriction. Imagine we can't even go to the beach. Like, open air is probably the best place to be. If you have someone who's infected with COVID-19 and have to stay home, chances are everybody in the household is going to get COVID-19. God forbid, of course. But if you have the process where the people could go to the beaches and relax, this has taken a mental breakdown on everyone right now. This entire COVID-19 situation and where we are managing it. People are becoming frustrated. And when people become frustrated, they are less inclined to follow the rules. It's taken too much of a toll on the minds of everyone in Trinidad and Tobago. We need to get out of this. We need to end this lockdown, this shutdown. We need to come out of it. It makes no sense. The people in charge who's managing this need to realize that they have failed in its entirety. We need to bring new people in. And that's what we should be doing from some time ago, recognizing that, you know what, this bunch of people have been unable to make a difference. We need to try new people. There's nothing wrong in trying new people. But doing the same thing over and over the same way and expecting different results, well, we all know what that is. We need to find something different to do to break this trend. Okay, so let's shift our focus away from the political points and stuff like that. Although there are a couple other political things I want to talk about, I'll probably try and see if I could slip it in to this whole business aspect that I want to focus on now. And I want to start off with the obvious elephant in the room, which is this entire situation with national gas company and how they've been spending money and wasting. Now, some people believe that whole entire the whole commissioner police issue and COVID-19 issues are all smokes and mirrors. Basically, they just trying to distract us from the real issue at heart, which is the entire national gas crisis situation. But I can walk and chew gum at the same time, so they can try whatever they want. I'll focus on everything at the same particular point in time. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, yeah, we're losing money, but I will focus on everything. Like I said, I can walk and chew gum. So the national gas company, right? They have now spent in the first instance $400 million on trying to save Train One. Now I did a podcast episode. I can't remember exactly. Again, something I should have researched before we started. But I did an entire podcast episode in regards to Train One. And when I mentioned how BPTT and Shell have pulled out of Train One, it's basically stating how they don't have the gas for Train One and they're not spending any money. And I asked the question at that particular point in time, if the main shareholders of Train One have decided to pull out, why are we staying in? Why are we going to expend this amount of money when the shareholders, the ones who are in this industry for God knows how long, who suppose and who know better than us, they have decided that they no longer want to be involved in this process. They don't want to do no maintenance, nothing on Train One. They just want to put it aside and move on. But lo and behold, the government of the day, and has now shown public within the last 2 weeks or something to that effect, have spent $400 million to save Train One, and now it's come to the point where they've realized that the money that they spent was wasted. Wasted $400 million of our money. But I think what is critical in this whole issue is that the board of directors have now asked to be indemnified from all aspects with regards to that transaction. Now, while they have wasted $400 million of our money, they have now come in and tried to bring property tax to raise money that they've wasted. So they've spent and lose on one hand, and they're trying to raise on the other hand. When they could have saved that $400 million by not expending it in the first instance, because they have gotten from the leading people in the industry to not to go down that road. But who knows? They know better, right? Whatever. But they come in to bring property tax. But to indemnify the board of directors, to indemnify the board of directors, that's a whole new game. If you were to grant the board of directors indemnification for their actions or inactions, and they're basically seeing that the government has a significant role to play in that deal, that's why they don't, and they have advised a certain way, so they want to have no part to play in it, so they want to be indemnified. Now, the fact of the matter is, everyone knows that if you're in a disagreement with the manner in which a board is operating, the manner in which a company, the direction a company is taking, you can't sit on the board and continue to act as though you're not a part of it. You can't ask for indemnification. You tender your resignation. Board members are appointed with a fiduciary duty and responsibility, act in good faith of the company, of the shareholders, and in this case, the shareholders is the state. The state has a responsibility to the citizenry. If board members are fully well aware that this deal was going to go sour, they should have tendered a resignation and walk away from the national gas company. But instead, they want to continue to collect their salary and say, you know what, under the indemnification, we'll give you what you want. They have acted in bad faith, not just in bad faith for the company, but by extension and in the long run, the taxpayers of this country, and they should not be given an indemnification, because you grant them an indemnification, and during after that, every single board in Trinidad and Tobago that is state run or state controlled will ask for indemnification, because you know what? All the directions and all the decisions have to part to play with regards to the ministers and the state. So therefore, all they're doing is just sitting down and collecting a salary, and they're not operating independently, freely, and taking best interest with regards to the companies that they are operating. More than that, if $400 million wasn't bad enough for the waste, it's now coming out of the fact that they've wasted the next $200 million in some next bad deal. Now, these are deals that have taken place in the past, and the only recent one is the national gas deal. The $200 million was one was something in 2018. We don't know how many other bad deals are in the pipeline. So while they are wasting money, they're coming on one end and saying, you know what, for the money they're wasting, they want to collect property tax on you. But the Minister of Finance stated that we need the money. Now, with regards to this whole back to this whole topic about independence, if you think that these board members are independent and they operate on an independent basis, and that all the public servants and these high positions operate independent, let me bring this prime example for you. The governor of the central bank is now stating that how he expects growth to take place in this fiscal year or in the next fiscal year. Against all IMF predictions, World Bank predictions, he's now saying that. But he is a puppet of the Minister of Finance. Now, public servant example now, real public servant example. You would have heard that how the previous permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance was a guy by the name of Vishnu Paul. And you always believe that how these public servants supposed to operate independent from political influence. But Vishnu Paul has now been appointed as the High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. So he has jumped out of the public service and now jumped into the political fray. Like I said, the word independence doesn't exist. There's nothing wrong with having a political allegiance with any political party. But please do not come and pretend to us that you're independent. Vishnu Paul has always and probably was support of the government. And he's now clearly said, you don't get these appointments willy-nilly, folks. You don't get them willy-nilly. You have to be a supporter of the government of your day. And that's how these things come about. They didn't come about just like that. And for example, another one, the Senate and the Senate of Trinidad and Tobago. You know that I'm not sure if they finished the BIR, the whole Trinidad Revenue Authority, but an independent senator, Hazel Thomas Ayin, she has made a revelation in the contribution in the debate. I think it was on last Friday. This is what she said. This is what she said. She said that the staff of the BIR, the staff of the Custom Authority, they want the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority against everything that we've known, everything that we know right now in terms of the entire operations of the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority, how the manager, the executive manager is going to be appointed, how the director is going to be appointed, all under the auspices of the Minister of Finance. This independent senator is now putting her full hat behind what she believes to be a revolutionary bill. Yeah, it is revolutionary because this now means that our tax collection will now become a political thing, because these board members can now direct different people to go and collect revenue and taxes from certain people while not collecting from other people. I want to see when this Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority and when this property tax comes into play, who going to collect property tax from those people in Lamington and Beetham and from all these people's quarter areas? How are they going to collect revenue from them? But lo and behold, if you're in the middle class, working class, upper class, whatever it is, they're coming by you for property tax. There's going to be an unequal distribution in terms of how they're going to be collecting these tax. And those are the facts. But that's how they plan to operate. They waste money on one end and then come and collect it back on one end. Because as somebody would have said at some time, I'll get a name for you all in the past, they know that how these things can never go bankrupt, because they always know that how they can always come and tax you to make up whatever deficit that they want, whatever shortfall that they have. They can always tax you. They can spend without anything. Give indemnity clause willy-nilly, continue spending, and when they need money, just come back and issue a new tax for you, and you have to pay that new tax. The National Gas Company it has to be an embarrassing incident and a stain on the population in terms of how they've operated, in terms of what they have done with it. But like I said, they continue to tax, and now we have Gabriel Ferrer, CEO of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce. He is now calling the Minister of Finance a bookkeeper, and he's saying that how they just don't listen. Government don't listen to the Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Whatever proposals they put forward, they just don't get. Folks, there's only one way, and I've said this. I think I've said it on numerous occasions. There's only one way to get the private sector going, and that is to cut taxes, incentivize the private sector, incentivize young entrepreneurs to go out there and to create new opportunities and new businesses. You cannot keep taxing the businesses and expect them to create jobs. They have no revenue. They have no revenue to do it if you keep taxing them. And By taxing them means you're removing money from the pockets of the individual. When individual gets money, what do you think they do with it? They don't keep it, they spend it, and that spending creates an entire cycle whereby businesses get irrelevant profits to reinvest it. Businesses don't sit on their profits just like that forever. At some particular point in time, they try a new opportunity. It may or may not work out, but they try a new opportunity, and in trying that new opportunity, they create jobs, and it's that creation of jobs that has the entire system moving forward. But this government believes in this taxing their way out of these holes, and at some particular point in time, there's not going to be any more taxes. What do you think is going to happen after they finally drop its SOE? I suspect that when they finally drop its SOE, they may very well leave it for a week and call the next one because they love operating on the SOEs. I mean, they're clearly not going to get the opposition support to continue the SOE after November. So what then? What then? What are you going to do? What are you going to do when you create a pressure cooker like situation whereby everybody's getting so frustrated? What are you going to do now to maintain that? We wait and see. I wait to see what they're going to do. If they're actually going to allow it to rest for a while and then right after call the next one. But we'll see. But like, oh my God, I've gone so much over my time. So let me just try and see if I can end it. I said I wanted to end this podcast on a funny note, and let's end it on this funny note. This guy, Jason Williams, who lost the election in Salman Barataya, who got, I wouldn't say that, who got defeated by Saddam Hussein in Barataya, one constituency seat. He is now proclaiming and pretending to be the host. He is the host of the Morning Brew. I think it was on CNC3 Guardian Media Company, and he's acting as though he's independent. Like I said, folks, there's nothing wrong with having a political side, but there's everything wrong in pretending you're independent. How could anyone expect Jason Williams to ask government ministers tough questions, knowing fully well where he's from? And we know where he's from. He's from the heart of the. You don't become a candidate for the PNM or the UNC or for any particular party for that matter if you're not a supporter. One must ask Jason Williams the question, and I have no problem with him continuing to be a host on the Morning Brew, but he must declare his hand from the outset. Is Jason Williams a member of the People's National Movement? And if he says yes, then that's fine. He can continue to be on the Morning Brew. But I and his guests will know fully well where his questions, where his show is coming from, what political side of the equation is coming from. His appointment to that program is either Guardian Media Company doesn't understand the operations of, or doesn't understand politics in this country, or they just totally align to the People's National Movement, or they just don't give a damn and they'll do whatever they want, whether it's journalists or otherwise. And I don't think Trinidad and Tobago understands fully, or the journalists in Trinidad and Tobago understand fully their role, and that is shown with regards to Jason Williams being the host of the Morning Brew. If that is not a joke, to appoint a political candidate as the host of a program and then pretended to be fair and defend that position, then I don't know what else. Another funny situation I see is Nikki Crosby saying she'll leave in Trinidad and Tobago. This is the same individual who was on a radio program, who behaves and shows a particular type of attitude against a certain race of people, and supports that, a behavioral pattern that has no benefit to any section of Trinidad and Tobago. And you remember when she was trapped in traffic and what she was saying when they were in some protests or something in the highway in Port of Spain, the Beetham Highway, how she was behaving? That behavior is what Nikki Crosby supports. That's what she indoctrinates in the style of comedy. And now to come and say you're leaving Trinidad, I'm not sorry. I'm glad. I think your absence gives the people of those community a better chance of survival and a better chance of coming out of that line of poverty that they're in. Okay, I've gone way over my time. I want to say it's good to be back. It's good to be in front of the microphone again. It's good to be coming back out here and giving my point of views and that kind of thing. And I'm glad that you're tuning in, and I hope I could continue to do this next Monday as well. So, thanks for tuning in, folks. Thanks for listening to this episode number 41 of Viewpoint the Brian Heeraman podcast. It's great having you all on. Stay tuned and stay safe.